Welcome to your Aligned as Fuck Life podcast, hosted by your girl, Shalvika. I am a life transformation coach, a wife, a cat mom, pure generator, Enneagram 3, Pisces sign, and helping you build an aligned as fuck life is my jam. Out in this world, we believe that there are no set rules for building a life, career, and business. That we are all unique and we should be able to embrace our uniqueness in everything we do while shedding all the rules or bullshit rules one at a time. We will talk all things mindset, manifestation, healing, energetics, rituals, success, and so much more. I believe that I can have it all, and you can too. Ready for an episode that will take you one step closer to your aligned as fuck life? Let's get started. Hi, and welcome to another episode of your Aligned as Fuck Life with Shalvika. And I am so excited to welcome our guest, Christine, today. And we're going to talk about the juiciness of creativity and how you can use that and how she has used that to bring more alignment into her life. So, welcome to the podcast, Christine.
Thank you, Shalvika. I'm super excited to be here. I'm a big fan, and so I am a teacher. I'm a life coach. I'm an artist. I'm a mother. I'm many different things. But my, the main passion that I have in the world is helping people to tap into their creativity. And that is because I am someone who has not always been able to do that. And I have seen what happens when you let that go. And so, I was somebody who always loved like collecting art supplies. I always loved drawing. I always loved these things. I loved playing with them, but I was always frustrated because I never felt like I had the skill. Like I thought that creativity or artistry maybe was something that some lucky people were kind of sprinkled with the ability to do, and some people weren't. And so I pretty early on compared myself. I had a best friend when I was little who was very naturally, talented in drawing. And I would look at her work and I'd look at my work and I'd be like, discouraged. And so I would always try different things, but later in my life, actually after my kids were when my kids were little, and I had gotten so wrapped up in their that I really felt like I had kind of lost myself, that I was inspired to tap back in and find my creativity. And it's just become like this wellspring of opportunity and fun and connection really with other people. It's interesting how sometimes doing something on your own can connect you with others at the same time.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I love that. Is that like for people on the video? Is that like your art in the background?
This is a piece that I did. It's actually kind of an illustration of like that my creative in the coaching program that I did, Martha Beck's Wayfinder life coach training.
Right.
The concept of like your lizard brain, and the kind of the old part of your brain that is often afraid, right? It's often afraid, and it wants you to survive at all costs. And
Fight and flight brain.
exactly. And so sometimes being creative, sharing your creativity can be very vulnerable, right? Because it comes from our heart, right? And so this is that part of me that's like kind of scared for me. But I put him up here to kind of be like, we're good. We're going to do this together.
I love that. I love that. That is so cool. Awesome. So, okay, there's a couple of threads like kind of like going through my mind, but I feel like one of the things that I have noticed, and I very organically suddenly one day woke up and I realized that most of the people that I worked with are creatives in some shape and form.
Mhm.
And then I just sat and I was thinking about it, and I realized that, you know what, all of us are creating. Like,
Exactly.
it's a myth. Like, I worked as an engineer for 8.5 years on fucking tractors. Okay, like, I never thought like I used any creativity. Like, I thought like, obviously always using my logical mind, and there's no scope for creativity. But now in hindsight that I look at it, there's so much creativity involved. Like, I mean, even for someone who works in tech, like if you're an app developer, you're fucking creating shit. Like,
Mhm.
even like if you are a stay-at-home mom and you make up stories for your kids, you're fucking creative. Like, I think we, as human beings, one of the essence of like that makes us human, I think,
Yeah.
is our ability to create stuff out of nothing, like create something out of
100
nothing.
100%. And if you think back to when we were kids, right? We all played in our
Oh my
imaginations.
god, yeah.
We created worlds in our imaginations, whether we drew or played with clay or like whatever the media was, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But we all were like that.
Yeah.
And then I think what happens is schooling often, right? Or culture
Yeah.
can kind of be like, well, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
Right?
How you make money
There's
with it?
exactly, how are you going to commodify it? How are you going to make money?
Yeah.
And so there's that piece, and then there's always the comparison, right?
Yeah.
And then there's you know, everybody starts in different places.
Right.
But the point is not about even how good it is, right? It's just that you do it, because I think what you're doing when you have a creative impulse, right? You have an idea. Even getting yourself dressed in the morning is a creative act.
Right.
Making your toast is a creative act. Like everything that wasn't there before and then you did something and then it's here, that's creativity.
Yeah.
Right? So
Cooking, I
yeah.
feel like so many, like, I'm based in India, like, and I talk to so many, like, stay-at-home moms, and they're like, oh, I don't do anything.
Right.
Like, when people ask what you do, they're like, nothing, I don't do anything, I'm just a homemaker. And I'm like, dude, you can fucking cook. Like, that is, I feel, for me, like, I'm such a massive foodie. Like, for me, that is the ultimate thing that you could create. Like, just take like random shit and make it into something that's so fucking delicious. I mean, how do
Yeah.
you do that? It's so bloody creative. And yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and if you think about that, like there's like recipes or things that you follow, but everybody's dish is going to even taste a little bit different, right?
Exactly.
Because it has that flavor, and that's one, like when people discount what they're doing in that way, it's really detrimental, because even as a stay-at-home mom, you first of all, you created this life. Hello, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You're a human being. And you're creating a life with them. Like you have a vision of how you want that life to be,
Yeah.
right? And then you're working every day to try and create the life that you want for your kids, the life that you want for your family. Like that is insanely creative.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And we discount it, right? And that's the other piece, is like we discount it. Like I'm not a professional, so
Yeah.
why would I bother? But I think when we engage with our creativity, what we're really engaging with is like our essential self,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And our intuition. And so when we follow through, when you get that idea, right? Like, what if I put these two things together? I haven't ever done that before. What if you just get an urge, like I just want to scribble with this marker, whatever it is.
Yeah.
When you follow that urge, I think that you are confirming that you are willing to listen to your intuition. And it's a relationship with your intuition, right? You are cultivating.
Yeah.
That can help you in every area of your life, right? When your intuition trusts you and you trust your intuition, there's so many things that you're able to do and try and take risks,
Yeah.
right? But I think if we discount that and we don't nurture that connection, it can become very weak, right? It can just become like a very faint little blip instead of like a strong flow. That's the flow, right? Is like the flow of the communication with wherever that creativity comes from
Yeah. Absolutely.
through us. right? And you and I could have the same idea even, but our execution is going to be totally different.
Absolutely.
And that's like our unique mark on this world.
Yeah.
Is how we show up in that way. So
Yeah.
I think we do discount it because society is like, well, exactly. What are you going to do? You're going to be a starving artist? Hey, and who wants to be that? Like, I remember hearing that as a kid, and I'm like, no, I don't want to starve. Starving artist.
I think in addition to that, we also don't have role models. Like we didn't have role models growing up. Like a lot of role models growing up around people who actually followed their intuition and creativity and like, made like amazing in their life, like did amazing things in their life. Like there are very few examples that seem so far off. Like there's not many examples that are really close to us.
Right.
And I think that's changing. Of course, that's changing now with the internet and everything, with influencers, and I mean, there's so much creativity happening right now. Like it's not even funny. Like the kind of things that people are putting out into the world. It's so fucking amazing.
Yeah, and that's something that like the internet, right, and social media has broken down a lot of the gatekeepers.
Right. Absolutely.
Who got to put their work out there and have their work seen.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so for someone who's on that drink, because I was on that drink for a very long time. I think from the story that you shared, you were on that drink for a very long time. Like, you wanna do this, but then, your entire conditioned response is like, what for? Like, what the fuck is gonna that lead to? Right. So for someone who's at that edge, what would you tell them to do in order to just push beyond and actually start playing with their own creativity?
Yeah. So I think it comes down to having some type of, you know, ideally daily, but we start where we can with what we can. And really listening into like what is that urge? What is that thing that I either used to do and I, for some reason, like when I was a kid, I loved to write stories, or when I was a kid, I loved to, play with clay or whatever it was, even taking walks in nature and really like letting my imagination just go to town.
Right.
Like I kind of start there. What are the things I used to love to do
Yeah.
and I don't do anymore? Then also for me, like having a journal is a big piece of that. It's kind of like a place to put a lot of that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's writing, and sometimes it's collage, like grabbing. I collect a lot of little bits and pieces from here and there, and collecting things and putting them in there. Or I teach like an art journaling process, so you can.
Nice.
A lot of us have collected supplies, or we picked up pens here and there. I remember you talking about your or your supplies, right? Stationery and paper. You have this like attraction to things. So making a space, and sometimes if you don't even have a physical space, like I have, my desk is kind of like half business and half art stuff. Even just reading a book or a journal can be the space.
Right.
Having things out and open and available so that it's not like, oh, I gotta go and pull all that stuff out, and then I gotta put all that stuff away, and then like, forget it.
Yeah.
But like having things accessible, and especially like you mentioned, moms who are home with their kids, like jump in with your kids.
Yeah.
They can show you. They'll show you. They're doing it all the time.
Yeah. So it's very interesting that you brought that up. So one of the things that I tell everyone, like I talk about it on Instagram all the time, I talk about it all the fucking time, is this idea that find your coloring book. Okay? Like what I mean by that is I loved coloring books growing up. Like I loved coloring. I'm an only child, so that was like my thing to do. Like come back from school, open your coloring book, just like color for hours. And I went back to coloring books like 2-3 years ago, and honestly that's like my thing. Like every Sunday I have to sit and do that for a few hours, and honestly it just resets me in ways that I would have never expected it to. So I actually did that. I actually had literal play dates with people. So like someone came with Lego, someone came with like their clay things. What is that called? Play-Doh. And then like someone came with their sketchbook and like color pencils and stuff like that. And it was so much fun. And I was just like, we're gonna play. That's what we're gonna do. Like coaching comes after that. We'll see what comes up while we are playing, and then we'll go from there. And that was
That
a beautiful experience.
Yeah, there's a few things there, like that the act of coloring, right? That kind of repetitive back and forth, right, is so soothing.
Yeah, very meditative.
Yeah, it really is. And then doing it with somebody is amazing. And I like to use it with coaching as well, because often even what comes up when we start to do that is our inner critic. Hello, this guy, right? He's like, it's like right there, right? What are you doing this for? This stupid. What are you, right? Like all those voices kind of come up, and we get the opportunity to be like, oh, I hear you, but I'm doing this anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my
Maybe you
God.
don't get it, I'm gonna do it.
There is this, like what you just said reminded me of this. I don't know if you've read it. There's this book called Big Magic by this.
Oh yeah.
She talks about she has a letter written to fear, and she talks about this. She's like, I know you're gonna be with me in this journey, but I want you to sit in the back. I don't want you in the driver's seat. Like me and creativity are gonna decide where the fuck this journey goes. You can be there. You can just be there. I know you're not gonna go away. And that's so important, because I feel, especially with a lot of people that I've come across who want to do something creative, there is this urge to reach a level of mastery right away.
Yeah.
Like what you said with your friend, like you would compare your work with hers. And that's not the thing, right? Like unless you do the thing over and over and over again, like anything in the world, right? Like you're not gonna get the hang of it. Like you didn't wake up one day and just started driving a car. There was like a trajectory to your growth and learning, right?
And probably some scary moments.
Exactly. And that's fine. And that's essential, rather, in order for you to bloom as a fucking creator, right?
Yeah.
Which again, like initially I said I had like a couple of threads going on. Like let me come back to that. One of the things that you said, and I really want to talk about it, is you said creativity can be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that is what makes people hesitate, because they're like, if I write this, it's gonna go out in the world, people are gonna judge me, what are people gonna think, and what are people gonna whatever, bloody. So how do you still make that jump? Like how?
Yeah. I mean, you first and foremost, your creativity is for you, right? So you don't have to share it with anybody, right? Yeah. That's another piece of that, like the kind of, what are you going to do with this? What's the point, right? And the emphasis we have often on the final product, right? Not the point. The point is the whole process in that relationship, like I was talking about. Right. So, if you just have a sketchbook and you draw, and you don't show anybody, it doesn't matter, right? If it's too beautiful. And then if you, whatever it is, I like to do this writing process in my sketchbook, where I just write, freestyle, whatever's coming up, stream of consciousness,
right? Yeah.
I write really big and I write really loopy, and I connect all the words so there's no gaps. Okay. And it covers over itself, and nobody could ever even read it if they wanted to.
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's really fun, because I think there's also this idea, I definitely have it, that like, I've kept journals since I was, before I was a teenager even. Like I have journals, and I often go to them when things are difficult, or I'm confused, or I'm angry. Right. And then I would limit myself sometimes, because you're like, well, what if something happens to me and people find these journals? They're going to think there's like, that I hated everybody, or like they're going to only see this side of me, and it's really not meant to be shared in that way. Yeah. So sometimes, doing something in that way can kind of help, I think, create some safety, because ultimately we have to feel safe to let our creativity come out, because it is vulnerable. It is from our heart. Some people say, like, of all the the chakras, that the heart chakra is the only one that has this horizontal axis of our hands. And so what we make with our hands, really we're making from our heart. Right? So the one side, like, not feeling safe to share that, is real. And also, when you do take that leap and you share it, it is beautiful what can happen. Right? Because I know there's that idea too, that, like, we want everything to be safe before we do the vulnerable thing. But that we don't really get the safety until we do the vulnerable thing. That's how we learn who we can trust and who's on our team, and who's going to accept us for who we are.
I love that.
Right?
Safety comes after vulnerability.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So, one of the things that, like, say someone's listening in and, again, they're on that brink, right? Like, I want to go out and I want to do that. What would be your, like, I don't know, 2 things or 3 things that you feel someone like that needs to do today in order to be able to make that leap?
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned, like, that you do your stuff on, like, a Saturday, right? Or that you have your coloring, that you have, like, a kind of a time set aside. A ritual, exactly, right? So I think the first thing to do would kind of be to figure out, when can I grab 5 minutes or 10 minutes, that I could do this. Really and then again, there's that idea that, like, inspiration, sometimes we'll feel inspired to do something. Sometimes we just have to show up and do it anyways.
Oh my God.
And then the inspiration will, if it knows where we will be, and it will find us, but it's not always going to be there, right? And so whatever it is, I think, start now. I think even set a timer for 5 minutes and take out a piece of paper and grab whatever is handy, and just let yourself be. It's almost like seeing yourself on the page. When I started to do this, I felt like, because I had 2 little kids at home and I was so busy, and I felt like I didn't know who I was, and I was a different person. I had gone through this whole transformative experience of becoming a mother. And I don't know who mother me is or was. Right? So when I started to do this, then I could kind of see myself on that page. I could see myself in what I was creating. And then I could learn about who this new version of me is. But it's I think we also kind of drop that expectation that every time we sit down and do something, it's going to be some amazing experience, or even that we're going to like it, right? Like, we have to just kind of commit that we believe that there's something valuable in the doing of the thing, and that is the point.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, I love that. Because I think that's what stops us, right? Like, so many times we want to do things, but we want them to happen. We know the exact how. And because we're so caught up in how we want that thing to materialize, most people don't even take, like, the first step. And that's so fucking important.
Yeah, we make it, we overcomplicate.
Oh my God, yes.
And I would say too, like, listen, like, watch yourself. Like, if you decide, you're like, okay, this week, 3 days a week, I'm gonna, whatever the thing is, I'm gonna do some writing, I'm gonna do some sketching, I'm gonna just color, whatever it is. And then the excuses come in. Watch the emergencies arrive. Like, right? Like, watch yourself, because that also, I think that also is really good information, because you probably do that with other things as well.
So I'm currently reading this book called The War of Art. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
So he's Like I'm in the resistance part. He's talking about resistance. And it's so like once you read that, you're just like, oh my god, yeah, like fuck yeah. Like
Yeah.
resistance is showing up so much constantly,
Yeah.
right? And it's so important to kind of recognize. Yeah. I love that you have that reminder. I love that. I think I'm gonna borrow that idea and make it my own.
Really, it's really because it's and you know the things that we resist are usually the things that we really need to do.
Absolutely. Oh my god. Absolutely. Yeah.
There's that, yeah, like knowing how, knowing why, even knowing, you know, all of these things that we think we need in order to do the thing.
Right.
We just have to do the thing.
Yeah, they're
and then
irrelevant. Yeah.
trust, right? It's trust, and it's trusting your intuition ultimately,
Yeah, absolutely.
Which serves us in so many other ways in our lives.
Awesome. Okay, so what one advice would you give to anyone who's listening to this?
I would really say make the time, right? Make the time. If it's 5 minutes,
Right.
set a timer and do it. You have time.
Yeah.
And even if the first time you just sit there
Right.
thinking of what you might do, or remembering your childhood and what you liked to do when you were young. Even if it's just sitting in your imagination, if it's staring out the window and looking at the trees and noticing, you know, the other part of having a creative practice is it really strengthens our ability to notice, right?
Yeah.
To look closely at something.
Yeah.
Which often we're like so busy and what's next?
Oh my god, yeah.
So when we just take the time to do something and we do it, you know, consistently, we really start to notice so much more, and everything can become so much more beautiful. Like how much beauty is around us.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so last question. This is a question I ask all my guests. What is your favorite piece of media or entertainment that you keep going back to? So it can be a movie, a book, a podcast, whatever that looks like. It's okay if it's not even related to what we talked about, but what's like your thing that you keep going back to?
Something that I keep going back to. You know, it's funny because I often I don't reread things. I don't rewatch things. I am always like, what's next? That's my tendency as well.
Okay.
But I mean, you brought up Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert's book. That is one actually that I pulled back off the shelf not too long ago to open back up to, because it is one that, you know, it's so curious to me. Like so many people bought that book. Right. So many people, and it comes up again and again, and it came out a long time ago. Right. And there's a new book, you know, there's so many books out about creativity and about, you know, I have this new one. I just got Your Brain on Art.
Ooh. Okay.
Which so people are buying these books, which tells me that they know on some level that it's possible, right? But at the same time, a lot of people are saying, I don't have the time. I just, you know, maybe someday. Maybe when I'm tired, I'll pick that up again. Maybe.
Yeah.
So, you know, I kind of veered off of your question a little bit, but it's curious to me that these books are so popular.
Right. Yeah.
But people don't necessarily then take the action on it.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Just even while you're watching a show, take your book out, draw what you're seeing on the show.
Yeah.
Just make that a part of the things that you do.
Yeah. I love that. And honestly, I used to be one of those people who had like reading goals. Like, I'm going to read like, I don't know, 40 books, 50 books in this year. And this was when I was in my corporate job. That's what like everyone was doing around me, right? But then now I'm just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to take as much time as it takes, right? Like, what's the point? Like you said, what's the point of me just glancing through that information, if that's not going to, and I'm not saying everything you read has to change your life, but I'm saying that, at some level, I would want to integrate whatever I'm reading if it is that good. Like Big Magic. I think it's a war of art. I think it's a phenomenal book. Like these things, I want to integrate in my life, and that takes time. That takes fucking time. And because we live in such a instant gratification driven world, I think, yeah, that's at the root of so many things.
Yeah, and the goal setting, right? Like the number. It's the number of books I want to read, not like how deeply I want to go into it. I definitely get caught up in that too. Like I love the library, and I have so many books like on my bedside table that it's ridiculous actually because and then I too find myself like rushing through just to be like check it off.
Yeah.
I read that one. I read that one. I read that one.
Right.
But I think, and so then that's kind of an example too of like I do that in a lot of areas of my life too, right? So yeah, I like to slow down and to go back, and because you always, even if it's the same thing, you see it differently on a different day. You're a different person on a different day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that I also want to note is that I know probably the world doesn't seem to be, absorbing these things, even though it's supposed to be consuming it. But I think there is change happening. Like there's people like you and me. There's people that I see every single day who are ready to, not just give up the rat race, but want to genuinely experience another way of being. And I mean, it's happening. It's going to take time. There's 8 billion fucking people on this planet. Of course, it's going to take time. But yeah, I'm just hopeful that.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah. I am too. And that's a really interesting point to the difference between consuming something, right?
Yeah.
And creating. I think that those are like very interesting things to notice.
Right.
Like how am I consuming of others' creativity, right? All of the, a book. I mean, that's a creative act, right? Writing watching a show, all of the things. How much are we consuming of others, versus creating our own, right? And even like consuming for our, our relaxation or our fun, right? And entertain me. Sit back. I fight this with my kids all the time. They just want to be entertained, And it's like, no, there's a skill in creating your own entertainment.
Yeah.
We were little, and right? We created.
I feel there's so much value in boredom.
Oh my God, 1,000%. It's not like we're afraid of it. It's not a problem. It's actually a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Christine. This has been a very, very interesting conversation. And I cannot believe we've been chatting for like 32 minutes.
Time flies. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. And I'm so grateful that you were able to spare some time for this.
Oh, anytime.
Awesome. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. If you absolutely loved what you heard today, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review on iTunes so that I can keep the good stuff coming. And if you aren't already following me on social media, come soak up some extra inspiration and send me a hello on Instagram by searching @Shalvika P. Also tagged in the show notes. I love and adore you so much, and I will talk to you super soon. In the meantime, continue building your most authentic and aligned as fuck life. Ciao!